Hello, this is Art Johnson of New World Communications, and welcome to program number 5 of Books for New World. We've been reviewing chapter by chapter of a book called The Basic Ideas of Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes, written in 1957. This is well after he wrote his major book, The Science of Mind, and this is a kind of a primer to it. And this chapter, the book is really, really nice because it's so concise. And what's so nice about it is it builds, each chapter kind of builds. We started with chapter 1, which was talking about you and your mind and the structure of consciousness, the structure of the world. And because the world itself is an expression of universal mind, of universal intelligence, energy, it's omnipresent. And the structure he mentioned was divided in several parts or several kind of major activities. Conscious mind, which thinks the thought, which is then received by subconscious mind, and the law of mind then through law creates and manifests the world of your experience, so the body of your thinking. Everything in the entire universe, whether you see it or not, is an expression of mind. And because of that, he then talks about, he moves from that, we talked about that in the first chapter, how that can be used initially to think healthily and to actually improve your mental and bodily health, which is really prime, very, very important if you want to get anywhere. And because the body is something more familiar to you, he starts with that. Then he moves into applying that to controlling your conditions, even your financial conditions, and tapping into the law of infinite supply and declaring your good and essentially sending that to the universe, not sitting back, doing all you can to express the good and then receive your good, and even receiving it before you even see it to help that manifestation come along. And then so he then goes into that, and last chapter was focusing on rebuilding your life. Now that you've got these tools, you can start to rebuild your life. And this this chapter is to essentially understand what gifts have been blessed by to humanity, have been given to humanity. And he mentions in this chapter, using a biblical reference, that man has dominion over every creature. You can go look through the Bible, and just everywhere it begins, it just talks about you're given this, and let there be this for man. And again we find statements as, I have given thee this and given thee that. And but he also wants to make a distinction between people realizing that, that as a principle or a truth versus a fact. And the fact is that many, many eons of time have passed before people can realize the truth, see that truth as fact. The truth is eternal. It's always been there like gravity, but until you start to understand it, or flight, and being able to apply it makes a whole difference. And it's taken a really long time for man to become aware of his dominion over nature or over his world, but still slower was man's conquest of his conditions, and even longer than that was the conquest of his own mind to control those conditions. But now we're at a stage in human consciousness through self-consciousness that we are able to kind of break it down and put it back together and essentially start to use this in a way where you can determine your welfare. Now, what he really talks about now, you got to be careful, because when you're starting out that way, the whole idea is for what we call right thinking and right action. The fact is, however, your whole world of experience, your subconscious mind, has many, many experiences in it, some of which are not positive. And there are some things in your mind that you may not be aware of that can limit your ability to perform well, to be happy, to be confident, and to move forward. And so this is a great chapter. You say, well, what do you do about that? I mean, yeah, you can look back in your childhood and figure out some major things that might have been positive or negative in your life. But there's probably 1,000 more that unconsciously, just little nitpicky things that might have some limiting thoughts, or might also some real valuable things that you forgot about yourself that could really help. What can you do about that? Do you go to therapy and just, delve back into that stuff and beat yourself up? He said no. In this chapter, it's really, really interesting. He says there are several things that you can do. He said one is to realize that the nature of subconscious mind, that's the what he calls the law of mind, that's the part that takes what you give it, is very, very obedient. And one of the gifts of your subconscious mind is it builds habits that make your activities automatic. That's a real good thing in some way. Like you learn how to ride a bicycle or drive a car, you don't have to learn it every time you do it. Once you learn it and get in the habit of doing that, things are kind of automatic. Now that can also work against you, though. So if you've got limiting thoughts and some things have happened to your mind where your neural circuits are just kind of short-circuiting all the time, then you've got to figure out a way how to clean out these negative thoughts, these limiting thoughts, these limiting patterns of thought to do that. So one of the beautiful things he talks about is if you send positive thoughts, because he talks about the fact that you are made in the image and likeness of God. That means you have some of the same powers of this universal mind that you can apply. And by doing that through what we call positive affirmations, you can send things to your subconscious mind that are so positive, that are so good, that they literally cleanse out all the negative thoughts. You don't have to even know about what they all are, because just the positive thoughts that you have are so powerful or so good that they have the effect of cleansing in a healthy way, in a healing way even. So he talks about what some of those qualities are. We touched on them before, but I kind of want to talk about that and talk about how this affirmation thing works. He talks about, first of all, the power of life. That's like a meditation if you really think about life itself and living and being life. Not only are you just living, but you are an expression of life itself. And so you can live vitally, and what all that means. You can meditate on that and dig deeper into what that really means, but it's being vital. And then another part is being wise, or the effect of intelligence. This is your innate godlike quality or characteristic or trait that you can further develop your wisdom. And then there's this whole thing of beauty. There's beauty in you, and in beauty all around you that you can become more aware of, the way things are put together, the way your body works, the way your cells rejuvenate, the way things are just so beautifully organized that just overwhelmingly make you feel so good and are so exquisite in their beauty. And the fact that you have the sensibility to actually experience that and be moved by that, that's a beautiful thing. Then you have this whole idea of peace. That is your natural position. Your true self is as a natural being. And that is a peaceful being. That is your place is harmony, because you are harmony. You are an expression of a perfect existence that's wanting of nothing. Amazing, amazing philosophy here. So you have that, and then because it's almost as an outcome, and it's also a force itself, is joy and happiness. Wow! By being happy, literally being grateful, being so grateful of the things that you have, the gifts that you're being blessed with continually, and sending those thoughts will build a habit. He says, just think about, just imagine if you did this in the morning and the night, like before you go to bed and before you get, right when you get up. Think of how your life is going to be changed, how things are just going to be cleansed out. All that baggage of years can be cleansed out. He even gives you 6 months. He said, imagine 6 months of that happening. He even sets a time. You must have seen some of that happen to know that. So he just wants to say that, really have some faith in this. And even then talks about, well, I know every one of you, he said, but you don't know. There are probably people doubting Thomas's in his readership is saying, but you don't know what really happened to me. He says everyone has had these horrible, cruel, wounding kind of experiences. No one is from those really wounding experiences. Or even if you've never told yourself you felt inferior, sometimes you felt timid or shy, and a voice, some crazy voice might say you're not good enough, and what he's saying is you're good enough. Your truest self is perfect because you're an expression of that same perfection, and that perfection can't really contradict itself. The only thing that can contradict the thought are patterns of thought that entered into your mind that you have the ability to change. You have the ability to determine your own welfare. He's not talking about your welfare check. He's not talking about your disability. He's talking about your well-being that is in the dominion and the power, your right and your privilege to use to create the conditions and the existence and the life of happiness that you deserve, that all of us deserve, all gifts. So I just want to, I'm keeping this one short. I welcome your comments here. You see over here, there are some places for you to comment on. If you have any kind of thoughts that may be holding you back, let's talk about them. And let's talk about using these affirmations, a very, very, and claiming you're good now. This is really what you're sending this to the universe. Universe, show me my beauty. Universe, show me my wisdom. Show me, give me, I'm so grateful. Show me more. Show me what I need to do to move to the next step. And the doing is really interesting. The doing, it's in this modality, it's more like being and being receptive, and the doing can get worked out because you're giving it to your subconscious mind to, and you'll get it in these bleeps. I've been trying this stuff, and it's amazing how all of a sudden you'll just, you'll figure out, well, you go into this meditative state and you're just kind of being receptive, and you come out of it, and then all of a sudden you'll get a dump of just insight, a whole bunch. Beethoven's Ninth supposedly came to him with one note, this whole symphony that was just dumped right into his head, kind of as a gift of all these wonderful things. So the doing, now this is really an act of faith, doesn't all have to be done by you. You're giving that to your subconscious mind, which can pull from so many different things, so many parts of yourself that you might not even be aware of, some of which are really positive. A lot of times people always just think, well, it's just the limiting thoughts are the things that I don't know about. What you don't know about also or those really positive, godlike qualities that are your truest essence that only need to be developed. Only if you get the noise out of your head, and the noise, the chatter of the conditions in front of you, and thinking how, stop being a victim, but start realizing that you are essentially controlling your thoughts and directing them in a right thinking and a right action way. And one of the part of that right action, again, is to affirm positively all those things, all the good. And his book, by reading it, the big book has some wonderful affirmations that you can read to yourself. And when you're sending everything, the universe, everything you send is actually being heard. Nothing is forgotten. So therefore, you have to be careful what you're thinking. Be very intentional, and as long as you stay positive, then it'll get easier and easier. Things will just kind of come to you as a matter of habit. Wow. So anyway, thank you so much for this episode. Next time, there will even be another chapter on directing your emotions. So a little more help about how to apply yourself. And I think it's called The Power of Directed Emotions. So it's really some more help. This is a wonderful, kind, peaceful thing. I really think it's important right now in the middle of all this stuff in the moment in history, Ferguson and all that. Imagine what it would be like if everybody started to recognize the oneness. We're all connected, that we are all different individualized expressions of the same good. We just need to forgive for ourselves, to love ourselves, and look at the larger picture of humanity and tranquility and peace and love and wisdom and beauty and joy. Thank you so much.